Ask me if you want. What was the disagreement about?
What was the disagreement about? Because I know you know a lot more than you've let on in past episodes.
I know all there is to know. So for his efforts, if he was going to be involved, he wanted to make a profit. Chris Colombo said no. Carl Gambino wanted to use it as a source of revenue for his participation. I want to see this belongs to the people. What do we leave on the table for the people?
Mm-hmm.
He had no rebut to that because that was the right thing to do. And I'm not saying Carl Gambino wasn't honorable. He was. His word was good. He was not a liar. He was not a sneak. Was he a fox? Without a doubt. Very smart man.
Mm-hmm. Welcome back, everyone, to another collaboration, not a conspiracy.
Yeah, finally got that straight.
With Crime and Entertainment and Taking Action with Chris Colombo. Now, we've done about, I think, 3 episodes together up until this point. I think this is going to be one of the better ones because the reason why...
the other ones are no good?
No. I think this one's just going to be a little bit more detailed.
Well, that's up to you. You called for this like you called for the last one.
Mm-hmm.
What was your reason to want to do this? And you flew from
South Carolina. I watched the History Channel show, which I'm sure a lot of people did. You were on it a couple of times. We're going to get into what they did here, how much you filmed, how much actually made it into the show. Right. But a lot of things just did not add up and not make sense. And I think the problem with a lot of these shows today, and I'll even include myself in some of this, is just because someone says it, a lot of times we believe it's true. And that's not always the case. So the best way to go is to the source. So,
I was there for everything they discussed on the segment of my father.
And, I don't want to go to Selwyn Rab. I don't want to go to a mob museum historian that wasn't even alive in a decade close to where all this was going on. We're going to the source.
So you want me to tell you how it came about that I did the history show?
Yeah. Well, let's start with that, and then we'll kind of work our way through what the program laid out and work our way forward.
We live in a world where knowledge or truth isn't important.
Mm-hmm.
What people say, they want to be entertained and they want to continually beat a drum and they don't care what the truth is. I don't know why. People are led in that direction. One of the examples is cigarettes. Horrible, filthy habit. I believe there's a drug in there that addicts you because when I was growing up, cigarettes was everything. The Marlboro Man. Winston tastes good like a cigarette should. I'd walk a mile for a Camel. Carrington cigarettes, I'd fight rather than switch. I think there was 116 brands of cigarettes. The lobbyists at that time was pushing for cigarettes where the money was.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I believe when I started smoking, I was paying 50 cents a pack. And I paid close to $19. It's still almost the same cost, but then the rest is taxes.
Jeez. It's $19 for a pack of cigarettes
in Manhattan. It's around 16 for Newports, and I smoked them since I come home from jail because it was preeminent.
Seriously glad I don't smoke.
But they can care about everything. Now the thing is, and liquor was that way too. In Prohibition times, it was bad. The lobbyists bought the liquor and basically the Rockefellers.
Right.
And they got money for each thing. It's the Kennedys too. And then all of a sudden, liquor was the best thing, and you could drink as much as you want. You could run over people. It was diminished capacity. And when it went too far, now it's marijuana and vapes and whatever else.
Mm-hmm.
Not that long ago, people were getting life for the Rockefeller laws for marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
Now everybody's just puffing away in the THC levels or whatever, but that's where your taxes are getting taxed and the money's going. Part of the entire skim, in my opinion. But I say what is vice today is commerce for them tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Same like gambling. Not that long ago, not even a decade ago, they tried to give me life.
Mm-hmm.
Gambling. But there's other parameters for that. So your question basically is, How did the History Channel evolve?
Yeah. How did they reach out to you? How did that happen? Okay.
They called me up. Nice fellow, Bobby O'Brien. He had the production company. He was doing it. But really nice people. And he asked would I be interested. And they came up and met with me. And they asked about if I had pictures for the league. I have the whole historical history of the league and pictures and albums, plus, I don't know, somewhere about 170,000 single pictures.
You shared a few of the photos of me. It was a massive crowd there at some points in time.
Yeah, well, almost everything they showed on the History Channel came from me, picture-wise. They brought me the video of my father doing the Cavett show.
Mm-hmm.
And moving forward, they saw the picture. They're understanding the first Unity Day. There were only 10,000 people. You saw the picture. They were astonished about the accomplishments of the league. You read it in 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
The camps for children, the programs, the chapters, the picketing. There was just FBI headquarters. The help for the people in Biafra, the help for the Soviet Jews, the merging with the JDL, the supporting of Angela Davis and her constitutional rights. The league was very diversified for all people. My father was particular towards Italians, so am I. I'm prejudiced towards them. I love them.
Mm.
But I love all people. And moving forward, they were astonished. They said, wow, could we, want to film this? I said, okay. So your question is, and I said, well, I figured the offer had come out, which is, you saw it. You can ask me questions on that later. I mean, the inconsistencies, the falsehoods, the timelines, the people, they're using real names for fictitious situations. Was terrible. And then you had the Godfather Harlem, which was just completely ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And you're a civilian to this. I grew up in this neighborhood. I grew up with these people.
Right.
So I figured the History Channel was safe. After I watched it, I was like, they interviewed me. They said my whole house looked like a movie studio. They said they're tremendously advanced cameras, interviewing cameras, sound, lighting. They really did a nice job. They knew what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
I think the owner of that production company's name is Colin, nice gentleman from Boston, Southie. I adhered to him right away.
Mm-hmm.
Because Bobby O'Brien was an intern with one of my closest friends, John Albert, who is a true journalist.
Mm-hmm.
Tells the truth, which is a rarity in this day and age. So I agreed to do it. Now, what's your questions?
I think we need to first start off. You mentioned the Dick Cavett full interview.
Yeah, I showed it to you.
Yeah.
They brought it to me.
That was my question. They brought it to you. Had you ever seen the full interview before?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Okay. So,
but I didn't have it on DVD.
Right.
I had it on Umatics 3/4 inch cassette before Betamax or VHS. Go ahead.
Okay. So in that show, they took a very small segment, and I think that whole thing probably run, 15, 20 minutes? Maybe slightly longer?
Almost 40 minutes.
Well, I'm talking about just the...
Are you talking about the segment they put on the internet where my father says I have a piece of a funeral home to make him look funny?
Yeah, they shorten out and they take that clip and they try to paint a narrative is what they did with that, in my opinion. Because I can say that because now I've seen the entire thing. Why do you think they did that?
It's part of what my father said. There was an overall conspiracy within the press, within the government, to slant things their way. It's still going on until today. Mm-hmm. With the Democratic and Republican Party, they got them at each other's throats.
Mm-hmm.
Aren't we all Americans? Moving forward, the Democratic Party today is moving very close to socialism, in my opinion. I mean, I don't think that's democratic, do you?
No.
It's trying to transform. Fanaticism either way is no good, in my opinion. But moving forward, I don't know exactly what your question is about the Cavett show.
Well, I think there's a couple questions about it. Number one.
Let me reverse this for a second. You watched what was shown on the internet, the one piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
You watched this whole interview. What did you think of it? I know. I was there. I lived it.
Mm-hmm. I think your father is probably one of the most well-prepared, well-spoken men, even when people are coming at him from different directions, because you had two ladies asking questions. You had Dick asking questions. He was prepared for everything.
He wasn't prepared. He told the truth.
Well, yeah. And, well, what I'm saying, he never lost his composure. I think would be a better way to
He
put it.
didn't never lose his composure.
Never did, or at least in that interview that I seen.
That wasn't his way.
Never did. And the way he explained things, it would make sense to whether your intelligent level's up here or whether your intelligent level's down here. He's got a keen knack, and you do too, for being able to speak to everybody, to get to focus on one thing. And one of the things he said in there was that they like to kind of group people together from one name. A lot of that being, we'll say the government would just say the Colombo crime family. All right.
Well, I think Mafia was the word they used that he was vehemently against.
And he went into detail about the origin.
He said on the show. Okay. Where Mafia started from, as you know, Sicily and Italy, especially Sicily, was the most invaded country and segue to Europe in the world. They were invaded by everybody.
Mm-hmm.
They had no sense, no identity and back to their Italian roots. And Northern Italians were blonde hair and blue eyes, like the French, like the Germans, like they're Aryans. And when the Black Moors came in and invaded, whatever, so there was a natural prejudice between Italians. The people from southern Italy didn't like Sicily, and the people from just above Lebanon, central Italy didn't like them down, and northern Italians didn't like anybody that had dark hair or dark eyes. So there was an innate prejudice against Italians by Italians, and a jealousy too. Sicily got the worst of it. So one of the countries that invaded Sicily was the French. And they came in, and the men drove, and they went to the mountains, leaving the merchants, the store owners, the people that were in the Sicilian police, the people who were in the Sicilian military, whatever there was, fled to the mountains. When I see men, not all males, the store owners stayed behind, the merchants and stuff like that. And it was a phrase, Porta Franzese avanti Italia. Those are the abbreviations for Mafia. That means kill the French and get them out of Italy. Now, this was a great organization, and that's the word Mafia. It's an abbreviation. So what would happen was when a woman was being raped or abused, or a store being wrecked and pilfered or extorted, and children were beaten in the street because they were occupied by France, the people would scream Mafia, Mafia to scare them, and that they would hear the cries in the mountains. And then these patriots of Sicily would come down and kill them. Either in the night, on a sneak. It was a great organization in Italy, not here.
Right.
Okay, so, and how they would identify the French. We have a bean in Italy and in Sicily called the Gigita bean. Now, when we grabbed the French people, it was hard to tell who was French, who was Italian. They would tell them because French would speak Italian. They're all based from, French comes from Latin, so does Italian. It's called the Romantic languages. So it's even Spanish. But that's why they have a consonant at the end. We have a vowel. That's why Cristoforo Colombo was Christopher Columbus when he sailed for France. I know I was named after him. So they would tell them, they Gigita. They go Gigita, because the accent wouldn't allow them to say Gigita. They know they killed them.
So they had them right.
That was their way of making sure that they were killing a French, because they would say, we're Italian, we're here, we're no harm to you.
Right.
So once they couldn't say the bean, they killed them. It's a great organization. They were patriots of Sicily. They protected their women. They protected their children. They protected their country. They protected people invading them. Somewhere, somehow, one of those historians that they show you back then terms that term for what they call Italian-American organized crime. So they stigmatized it. Joseph Colombo was against this. That's an ethnic slur on a great organization, and applying it to this group in America, which they stigmatize as organized crime. That's why he was against things, because none of these people that have been arrested refer to themselves, except the stool pigeons like Sammy. He's proud Mafia. He don't even know what it means. He's illiterate. And not a very nice man on top of it. Okay. So that's why he was against that, the stigma of that. Secondly, what he was against is, now, I'm going to use Selvin Rab. Now, why I am the greatest handicapper and the most effective handicapper and the best in the country. You watch my show, I'm at 83%. Is that a lie?
No.
Go back to the show and watch it.
I made a little money off you last year. I certainly appreciate it.
Well, no, for me, I give you the knowledge. I'm going to break it down, how I break handicapping down, the process of how I think. It's not that I could, or my father could relate to intelligence here. Well, here, I believe all people are intelligent or have the ability to understand if you can talk to them understanding.
Right.
So I break everything down to its simplest level. Okay. According to Selvin Rab. Selvin Rab, and I asked them to the History Channel. The History Channel bought the property of his book, whatever the name of that book is, I don't even know, to make the show. He basically compiled that. I don't know who Selvin Rab is. I don't think anybody that he talks about or writes to know who he is. I don't think he knows anything. He just compiled things from law enforcement and informants and other articles to put this in some structure. Okay. When they came here, they asked me significant questions. One of them is, well, why don't you ask the questions? But that's the basis of the History Channel. But when they did get here, they found that the information I gave them, they were shocked. They were stunned that it's in paperwork, it's in documentation. I don't speculate. I say what I know is to be true. One of these people were there. One of these people talked to the people. I mean, if you want to go through life listening to these people on the internet that are trying to rewrite history, that's what I'm against. Let's tell the truth. I ask you questions.
So you mentioned Selvin Rab. I'll kind of piggyback on a question that he said. Well, he kind of contradicts himself
consistently. And well, they tried to originally. I talked to the production company. They took mostly me and what I said and the information I provided them that was historically date correct, everything correct, with my personal experience. When they submitted it, History Channel hated it and they redid it. Go ahead.
So he says that the term capo di tutti capi, is that how it's pronounced?
Boss of bosses, captain of captains.
That died when Lucky Luciano took over. He said, we're not going to do that.
According to Selvin Rab, there was no Masseria, according to Selvin Rab, and Maranzano. They had a bloody war.
Right.
That they say Luciano, Tommy Lucchese, Frank Costello,
Bugsy
Siegel, and
Meyer
Lansky. Yeah. Who taught me how to be a bookmaker. Okay, moving forward. Long story short, it was a cultivating time. There was a war, so according to Selvin Rab, now there was a commission. That there were no capo di tutti capos, and everybody had a vote. Republic, like Rome. Okay. And he says that there was peace and harmony, and right up until they say, my father's time. What's the next question?
But does not he not refer to Carlo Gambino as holding that title?
He does, because that suits the government. So are you trying to ask me that was Carlo Gambino capo di tutti capo? What is the question?
Well, one is, how is that logical to write a book and say this term ended back here, but yet now you're saying it
suited the government at that time? Because the backup story of the shooting of Joe Colombo was Carl Gambino capo tutti capo. Enlisted Joe Gallo to put a hit on Joe Colombo. Well, what's the question?
Well, I don't want to get there yet. That's a little bit further down my line. I do want to stick with this real quick. So that's one thing that I want to knock on Selvin Rab. But another thing on that Dick Cavett show, not only was Mafia used to kind of, smear and paint Italians in a bad light, but then you went more specific with the names, the Gambino family, the Bonanno family.
According to Selvin Rab, it came out of Mangano, I think was his name.
Yep.
Then it went to Albert Anastasia, but the name Gambino, because that is the time they decided to come after the Italian ethnic group full force. So now, according to Selvin Rab, it became the Gotti was the boss of the Gambino family. So And I don't think there was a person in history other than my father and Al Capone that commanded that type of attention like John did. Why wouldn't that change to the Gotti family? Because they want to paint you with that brush, Gambino. So you're automatically guilty as charged.
Well, the same with your last name, Colombo.
Naturally.
Now, was your father the head of the Colombo crime family?
My father was the head of the Colombo family, not the crime family.
No crime family.
Oh.
How does that make you feel when you hear people say that did not know you, don't know your father, wasn't even alive? How does that make you feel?
Everybody becomes an expert because they listen to people that I don't think have any knowledge. I mean, I'm watching History Channel and they're backtracking because you can see they set it up for the things I say. Okay. How does that make me feel? They contradicted themselves constantly because they said Joe Colombo was not sticking to this Sicilian and the roots, and he was an American born Don. And if you go back in history, he was more than sticking to the roots because the Mafia protected the people. Italian American Civil Rights League didn't do it violently, but women were safe, children were safe, the challenged were taken care of, the elderly were taken care of. And that was an organization that the Italians don't stick together. They don't peacefully protest. They don't stick together to vote. They didn't even think about voting. They lived in Italian neighborhoods, and they didn't know what Wall Street was. They didn't know any of these things or the advantage they have them. Joe Colombo was educating them and had the League was that avenue. My brother Vinny, you met him. He was in charge with the League. There was income housing for Italians that couldn't afford it. But there was no Italian representative, so they went to everybody but Italians.
Right.
There was elderly programs set up by the government that they weren't getting. Our chief of police was Irish. We didn't have an Italian as an assemblyman, a congressman, or a senator. We had no voice. That's what the League did, to unite people, to vote people from the people into there.
Now, your father, before what is widely, known and recognized, the Italian American Civil Rights, he actually had another one, AID.
Another thing with the History Channel is they make accusations that Joe Colombo formed that to take heat off himself.
Right.
I don't see that being possible, but he was constantly harassed by the FBI. Okay. In the late 50s, early 60s, Joe Colombo formed an Italian called AID, Americans of Italian Descent. That was the first Italian American Civil Rights League. He formed it. He was the founder. But he wasn't actively out front with it. And that was supposed to do all the things to help the Italian people. And it was supposed to unite us because the Sicilians hate the Gallo-Braves hate the Sicilians, the Nobligans hate the Gallo-Braves and the Sicilians, sometimes the Gallo-Braves like the Sicilians, and the Northern Italians hate all of us because we're darker. See, it ain't prejudice, what you see in America today, only in Italy, by color. By our own race, that disturbed him greatly. It upset him. It hurt him. So moving forward, like I said, did he start AID because that was a whitewash, or did he want to help the people? He wanted to help the people. But what happened was the politicians got involved. There were fundraisers, but the money never got to the people. With the Italian American Civil Rights League, he came out forward because he wanted to get to the people.
And wasn't he accused of doing the exact thing that it seemed like he created AID? The money wasn't going to the people. It wasn't benefiting the people. So then he goes to his next one, but he was accused of doing that then too.
No,
why would he have left?
No, you get ahead of yourself.
Okay.
Who accused him? Did someone tell you this?
No, it was in the documentary.
No, it was not. They never mentioned AID.
No, not AID. When he was doing the Italian American Civil Rights, they were saying that he was doing it to funnel money.
No, are you kidding me? They used to go through our garbage pails.
Yeah.
He walked out of the house, there were cameras, the pictures taken.
Yeah.
The harassment on him was so bad. I never forget. We were 5 siblings. My oldest brother, Anthony, we got my mother pregnant before he lied about his age to go in World War II in the Coast Guard. He came home for a short period of time, but they didn't let him go to his house. He was looking for the boat because he was on a suicide mission. He jumped ship, went home, and then had to trawler because he would have been desertion because he had my brother Joey and to see his son before he died for his country.
Mhm.
It's a whole other story, but that's true. He could have stayed there and been a deserter. He didn't do that.
Mhm.
Because it was secret. It was a decoy ship. Because one bomb was delivered for Hiroshima and Nagasaki by airplane. One bomb was the SS. After they delivered it, it went down. They never reported Indianapolis.
Yeah.
But they also had decoy ships.
Right.
So he was a Coast Guard. So there were the cutters to escort one of the decoy ships from the Brooklyn Navy Yard.
Okay.
So they figured at least one bomb would make it.
Mhm.
So they did by air, they did by sea. They had fake planes and jargons. They knew it was coming. We were dropping flyers. We were going to bomb Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It was no secret.
Right.
But not getting it there because the Japanese boats were significant. Their Navy was good.
Mhm.
And their Air Force was really good. You see what they did to us in Pearl Harbor.
Mhm.
Okay, moving forward, which was an act of terrorism, not war, in my opinion. Military installation, but we weren't at war. So moving forward, he went home. He asked for the volunteer thing. He said, yes, I will volunteer. So they bring him back. He was serving in Casablanca, so a lot of action. He got my mother pregnant first time he sees his son and gets her pregnant. I think he stayed 20 days because he says, I'm looking at my home. Can I visit my family? They told him no. This is a top secret mission. You volunteered. You stay on the ship. He said, okay. And he went. They knew he went. But had that ship, when it left, got to international waters, that's desertion. He was charged with away without leave, but exonerated because it was a suicide mission.
Right.
Nobody comes back for a suicide mission. And they put the papers as dishonorably discharged. He was honorably discharged.
Mhm.
And he suffered from that greatly all his life. And he was diagnosed with a neurosis that he used to sleepwalk. When, for whatever reason, the Coast Guard cutter was here and here to the battleship. It was supposed to be carrying the bomb. Whatever reason, nobody knows. The rear admiral on the ship makes him switch this way and then go like this. So his ship from being here was here. This one was there. That one takes on a Japanese torpedo, sinking because they made it look like a thing. They couldn't go back to pick up the people in the ocean and drowning. So he had nightmares his whole life that they were banging on the hatches when he was sleeping of his friends drowning. Tortured him his whole life. Imagine having to leave your shipmates behind.
Yeah.
Because you're on a secret mission, but they knew the dangers. But that doesn't mean the effect of death is that much easier. What is the question I'm asking?
Well, it was kind of a comparison that, he started aid, he left because the money wasn't going to the people.
He didn't leave. The politicians took it over.
Okay, so the politicians took it over. But yet he's still accused of doing the same thing when he starts the Italian American Civil Rights. No. It's accused of taking the money and it not getting to work.
He was never accused of taking money. That's more press stuff.
No more press stuff. So when
every dollar was accounted for by a CPA, and the government was willing to look at the books anytime they wanted. Where's my lighter?
Yeah. Was Carlo Gambino behind the league?
You're going to ask me.
Was Carlo Gambino behind the league when your father started?
Absolutely.
Why?
I don't understand. Do you want to ask me the question that the History Channel made it like Carl Gambino and my father were the odds?
Yes.
My father looked at Carl Gambino as a father figure. He loved him. Carl loved my father. Was possessive over him. History Channel makes it like these people over there, we were over here. We were intermingled very closely. Baptized my sister. Baptized me. Matter of fact, he died in 1974. He never missed mine and my sister's birthday. He would call my brother Vinny and tell him to come down. I think we were staying up here in 74, 73 in Brooklyn. And Vinny would go see him and he would give $500 for me and $500 for my sister every birthday. He never forgot our birthdays. Matter of fact, my sister Catherine is named after his wife, Catherine Castellano. And my father's mother, who was Catherine also. Was her godmother. Carl was her godfather.
Right.
What was the problem between Carl and my father is what you're asking? I don't think Carl was really had any problem with my father at all. They had a disagreement over the league, but it wasn't what these people said.
What was it?
I'll get to it. And you can make your own decisions. When my father was staying with Carl when he was younger, there was not too much focus. My father was 48 when he got shot. That was in 71. So I get his mid-40s. He was with him a lot when he was younger, too. There was an assassination attempt on Carl. My father charged the guy with the gun and jumped in front of the bullet. He took the bullet for Carl. That's how much he loved him. And Carl loved him for doing it because he's alive.
Right.
My father's not there. Carl's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, the government was targeting Carl more than it was ever targeting Joe Colombo.
Mm-hmm.
And what really brought the wrath of the government on Joe Colombo was they were going to deport Carl Gambino, but without an arrest, which was tough to do. And they were doing it.
Yeah.
No secret, my father had significant, because of his power within the community, Italian people loved him. He loved them. I want to make it sound clear. The people didn't serve Joe Colombo. Joe Colombo served the people.
Mm-hmm.
He belonged to them. And he was willing to be that. That's the truth. Mikey Scar brings it out. He was there up until he was 14 with the league and grew up in the neighborhood. And he tell you that my father kept them out of trouble if they went to the luncheonette next door, ice creams, candy, little toys, whatever they want each day. He'd pick up the tab for them. And he gave them the league. I heard him say, we wanted a baseball team. There was an organized baseball team. He didn't want the kids in trouble. You hear him say that he would tell them, the kids, if somebody came high in our neighborhood, hit them, make them get out of our neighborhood. He wanted them against drugs. Mm-hmm. There's stuff to say Joe Colombo was involved in drugs. There are not enough evil words I can say for those people, but I don't empower negativity. Moving forward. Secondly, my father stopped the government from deporting Carl Gambino. It was one of the things the league did. So I think he would be grateful to that organization, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you would think so.
I would definitely think so.
Can we get into how he was able to do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
How was he able to stop him from being deported?
Joe Colombo was a leader from day one in his life. In the military. Later on, I have the thing upstairs. He went to work for a factory when he came home. And at that time, nobody knew what communism really, really was. There was movements within the labor movement. And because my father worked in this factory with my mentor, they called him somewhere upstate by here, not too far. They were having, they'd come and join our movement. He goes, it's a communist movement. They don't say communist. They try to organize labor and leaders. My father looked at him and said, this is very un-American. I'm leaving. Got up and left. That was the kind of guy Joe Colombo was. Follow me?
Mm-hmm.
Or he could have been a communist. He did not believe in that whatsoever. Whatever happened to the Democratic Party? It wasn't the Democratic Party of that. He was very strong. And you see he had strong relations with Nelson Rockefeller and so forth. Go ahead. Next. So what you're asking me is, would Carl Gambino, over an argument with the league, kill Joe Colombo?
That's what's portrayed.
Okay, first of all, Sullivan Rab's words, Carl Gambino was capo di tutti capo, but on his first episode, there is no more capo di tutti capo. Mm-hmm. There was people that voted, what they called a commission.
Yep.
Sullivan Rab's words, not mine. My understanding that there was a vote taken that you could help the league if you wanted to, but you couldn't hurt it. Mm-hmm. It's mind your business. Now, if Carl Gambino was capo di tutti capo, it didn't exist anymore, could he say this? Well, we'd listen to him. Or there was a vote. My understanding, there was a vote. And that was the ruling. Now, ask me, if you want, what was the disagreement about?
What was the disagreement about? Because I know you know a lot more than you've let on in past episodes.
I know all there is to know. Yeah. But unfortunately, America is not ready for the Joe Colombo story, but they'd rather listen to this one. And I'm not here trying to waste anybody's time or energy or mind barking like I'm a victim. And I have been. Who cares? Think the world cares about me? They do not. Mm-hmm. But Joe Colombo cared about all kids, all people, all. What do you think I got? Elderly, handicapped, challenged, women. What do you think I got? And kids. Mm-hmm. It fell out of the sky. What do you think I got my philosophy? From him. Mm-hmm. So, moving forward, after Carl saw the power of this league, Carl was not an altruistic guy. Mm-hmm. I mean, he did donate to hospitals and stuff like that for tax consequences. He was very wealthy, his family. But he wasn't a do-gooder kind of guy. Mm-hmm. So for his efforts, if he was going to be involved, he wanted and to make a profit. Joe Colombo said no. He called him Gumbada because he was a godfather. Mm-hmm. The Nogomani says, now they make it, he spit, he yelled, he poked. None of that era. We were taught from a young age. If we're discussing things, your hands at your side, you don't pick your hands up. There's no way he would talk to an older person. Never mind an elderly statesman in that manner. Just didn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
Follow me? Now, moving forward, Carl Gambino wanted to use it as a full source of revenue for his participation. My father said this belongs to the people. Why do we leave on the table for the people?
Mm-hmm.
He had no rebut to that because that was the right thing to do. And I'm not saying Carl Gambino wasn't honorable. He was. His word was good. He was not a liar. He was not a sneak. Was he a fox? Without a doubt. Very smart man.
Mm-hmm.
Was he the kind of guy that would engage in screaming and yelling and arguing? He's not really even a violent man. But he was a smart man. And their relationship didn't dictate that kind of rhetoric.
Mm-hmm.
So Colombo wouldn't allow it, and Carl Gambino wouldn't be part of anything like that. They were gentlemen, and they were very conscious of what the people thought of them.
And that's not the only portrayal that was mentioned in there, and to kind of set the tone for people that maybe haven't seen this episode on the History Channel we're referring to. They break down a scenario where your father and Carl are talking back and forth about the league, about the future. Your father gets upset, pokes Carl in the chest, and as he walks off, he spits on the floor where he's at. I was sitting there with my wife watching this.
Yes.
And I tell her, I was like, there's no way that happened. No possible way. And I'll go a step further back. Say there was a meeting. Who was there to tell what happened?
Nobody. They had to fill in the story to make the backdrop that Carl orchestrated this. And my father's whatever. If anything, Motto Franzese Avrante Italia was represented the people, and only the Italian American Civil Rights League did that here. Mm-hmm. So he was recreating that great organization's roots here without violence.
Yes. Now, he was also portrayed to have another meeting with a guy who's intricate to this story, Joe Gallo. Mm-hmm. For people that may not know, who is Joe Gallo? Give us a little bit of history on him.
Listen, I don't get into that. Sullivan Rabb said he was a faction of the Gallos that went against a man named Joseph Carracci. Mm-hmm. Whatever Gallo's problems were, they were Joseph Carracci, not Joseph Colombo.
Right.
At all. Matter of fact, had my father lived, Joe Gallo would have never died.
How was that?
We owe the Gallos 3 lives. Mine, my sister's, and my father's. And my father knew that. He was there. There was no way he was going to hurt Joe Gallo. He wasn't going to allow it. He was honorable. That was his way.
And which brings me to a good way to kind of segue into this meeting. Joe had to do some time in prison.
Yeah.
He gets out. He comes to your father. They make it seem like he's demanding money.
None of that is even remotely true.
Your father throws $1 bill and says that's all you get.
Not the original story was Joe Gallo demanded $100,000. My father gave him $1,000. Joe Gallo poked my father and spit on the floor. They combined 2 stories that neither nor were true to get this story to suit their purpose again. Because I read everything that these people write. I watch everything, including these informants that we write history, and have an agenda. I have no agenda. I don't monetize my podcast. My podcast is that they're going to destroy young kids gambling with the hoopla. Everybody wants to be Tom Brady, and if you can't be Tom Brady, you want to bet on Tom Brady. Or name any other one, Mahomes, or name it. I mean, what kid doesn't?
Yeah. And
they're taking advantage of that, doing right, and I'm going to help them. That's what I'm doing. I'm on the other side now. Plus, they tried to give me life for bookmaking.
Yes, they did. And we're going to get into that too a little bit. How that brush that they paint with your last name.
So the answer is
to find you guilty. Yeah.
Larry Gallo saves Joe Colombo's life. Larry Gallo dies. He was the elderly statesman. They say he was an informant. That is not true. The FBI used those tactics. They used them on me. Mm-hmm. For instance, when they came here to harass me one time, not too long ago. We know, first they were asking me questions. I say nothing. They came under the presumption that I was under arrest. Not true. So I got in. But they had a subpoena for me, but they didn't need to serve. to come in. They could have handed me at the door. I'd actually answered the door. So moving forward, once again, Joe Gallo's beef was with Joe Profaci, and it was Larry Gallo's beef. It was all the Gallo's beef. They weren't big earnest. They were being starved out in their own neighborhood. They were not wrong. The tactics were not wrong. There's a story that they kidnapped my father. That is true. It's absolutely true. There was a guy that came in the club with guns drawn, and they kidnapped him. This guy named by the name of Butch Cashier. He says, I'm coming with you. My father loved him. He was a great guy. Butch, I loved him. Funniest human being in the world. They says he may not be coming back. He says, but I'm going too because I don't want to come back if he ain't here. Yeah. So they let him go. That's how I know the story. Father didn't tell me the story. Butch Cashier told me the story. He goes with him to die. When they get there, they don't want to kill him. They tell him, listen, you're influential in the neighborhood. People respect you. We want you to join us in this problem. I can't do that. So what do you mean you can't do that? He says, your tactics are wrong. With that, a fellow named Joe Gelli, who was portrayed to be Luca Brasi in The Godfather, puts a gun to his head and is going to shoot him. So Larry asks him, are you with us or against us? He says, listen, I'm not against you. I think you're right, but I'm not getting involved in this kind of activity. It's hostages and shooting and killing each other. He says, it makes no sense. The government's going to win. We're all going to be dead. For what? Money? So Larry Gallo says, put the gun down. He said he's not against us. We can't force him to be with us. And he would rather die than do something honorable. I respect that. They shook hands and my father went on his way. But there's no doubt that if Larry Gallo don't say that, Joe Colombo don't come home. I'm not born. My sister's not born. And Joe Colombo's gone at that day. Joe Gallo had no power. He had no special anything when he came home. And if my father hadn't got shot that day, I believe that Joe Gallo would still be with us unless he caused his own demise because my father protected him.
Because these shows would have you believe that while Joe was in prison, he started reaching out to black gangsters, building somewhat of
That's all nonsense. Let me tell you what happened. I know the true story.
I do. That's why I'm here. Because I know you know.
I know more than I say. And you ask me why I don't say.
Why don't you say?
Okay, I'm going to tell you why I don't say it, because nothing I say will ever be done or taken as truisms. And you're going to find the head of the museum one day, what's her name? Cute little girl. Nice. She's a mob historian.
Yeah.
And Joe Colombo feels this way. And Carl Gambino said this. Nobody was there. How do you know what Carl Gambino thought? I know I'm sitting on his lap. Follow me? I interacted with him. My fathers interacted with him. My people, we saw each other at wakes, funerals, even Joe Gallo. It's not like they were far away. I mean, I was this close to Joe Gallo 100 times as a kid. Now, moving forward, my fear to tell the truth, it will be perverted and distorted as they have done. They have no reverence for history. They seriously have no reverence for the Italian-American culture whatsoever. And you watch the Cavett show, Peter Aiello was part of the league and went on to be Jimmy Carter's aid for education to minorities. It was a prejudice within the school. He was a school teacher. He started against Italians, against Mediterraneans. Moving forward, that's my worry to say it. I'm not an informant. I could never be that. And not because of organized crime, and not because of a mortar or murder or whatever that rule they wrote on the board. How can I, as a human being, and the way I was brought up, trade my sins to your family? So to save my kids from suffering, me being missing, I could take solace to make up stories to take you away from your family? That's undignified. It's cowardly. And it's wrong. And how do I meet my maker and tell him I was a coward? And I coined the phrase, the Lord hates a coward. And he should hate me. Listen what they did to his son, Judas. I don't care what it is. I do what I feel is right, and if that has consequences, I accept them. And that's what a man should do. That's my opinion. I will die with that opinion. The way Joe Colombo would have died in that chair for telling the truth. Moving forward, did I answer your question?
You did. Now back to the Gallo question, because we got off on that. It, like I said, it's portrayed that he's building this, group of individuals to help him.
Joe Gallo really didn't play well in the sandbox with anybody. Just his nature. It was Joe Gallo. That's why they called him whatever they called him first. I'm not going to disrespect him. You couldn't call him out to his face. He didn't think he was crazy. Was he? I don't know. Like a psychiatrist? Okay. He didn't say, "Hi, I'm crazy, Joe." Joe Gallo just bounced around when he was with Bob Dylan. He was in 60s parties. He was in Hollywood. He was all over the place.
Copa everywhere.
Yeah. It was just Joe Gallo. In jail, he didn't play well with the Aryans. I believe he messed up a couple of them pretty good. So if you have a white supremacist group looking to stab you in jail, who do you hang out with?
Exact opposite.
You can see them coming.
Yeah.
They purported that that's the true story. He had no army. He was no drug dealer. He had amassed no fortune. Nonsense. Well, Mikey Scott says it, I hate to revert to him. There's a guy that sold his soul, happy to be an informant. That's not my kind of man. I don't know if I could ever look in the mirror again or talk to my son or look my maker in the eye saying that I did all these things and I passed my sins on to maybe innocent, maybe not innocent families, but who am I to say? That is my reasoning. Go ahead.
So it kind of paints either two different narratives or the same narrative together, that Joe Gallo wanted to take out your father, and then Carlo Gambino maybe wanted to.
Watch this.
Okay.
Watch this. I made you look at the chapters in the league. It was significant. Joe Gallo had a social club here. There was an Italian-American Civil Rights League chapter here my father frequented. All Joe Gallo had is to walk out the door, make a right, walk in and shoot my father. Or some of his constituents. How hard would that be?
Doesn't seem very hard.
Okay.
And a lot less attention grabbing than what took place.
I would say.
So whether, when we're doing hypotheticals, whether Joe wanted to do it on his own or whether Joe was influenced by Carlo Gambino, the opportunity was still there to do it in a much less public setting than what happened.
So even move forward. Carl Gambino wanted to kill Joe Colombo. He was with him 2 days before the date.
And I'm sure could have got with him anytime he wanted to.
Anytime he wanted.
It's not like he's going to avoid a meeting with him.
Yeah, they make it like, no, not avoid. He called me calm either way.
Yeah.
Father walks into a meeting. My father's gone. Joe Colombo ran away. What attention did that bring?
Yeah. So it contradicts itself. Carlo's mad about attention, but yet he does something that's going to bring
mad about attention, right?
Yeah.
But he's going to assassinate him, recruit Joe Gallo, who's a wild card, by everybody's opinion, to recruit a black guy who's a rapist that nobody even know where they come with an accomplice they didn't know that existed. They denied it. I've said it from day one. But see that picture they showed? They got that for me. If there was a thing. And the police said, why didn't you show the picture of the accomplice? They denied there ever was an accomplice. I have the proof. I have a bigger picture of it. They didn't want to hear it. How about the agent that say he's filming everything that happened? Not one film shows the guy shooting my father, shooting the accomplice, nothing. Just my father and the guy laying on the ground. Proof's in the pudding. The Fed says, I'm taking what happened. Oh, we gave it to him by PD. It's not a federal offense murder. Okay. Do you believe the Feds turned over there?
I can't sign off on that.
No. Now, there was multiple cameras by the Feds. Now, what about Channel 2, Channel 4, Channel 7, Channel 9, Channel 11 News? They were filming it. The only video film that got out is the ones that we took. That's how I know. And we had to hide it because the Feds confiscated everything from everybody. Now, let's move further with the conspiracy. Well, this is exactly how it happened because I watched it on film before the Feds got it back in their hands. We hid it above the ambulance elevator in the hospital. They took Channel 7, Channel 5. Everybody was taking pictures. It was all confiscated. Now, what happened is Jerome Johnson comes with a government press pants around his neck, tight tank top, right? Tight jeans. So if you looked at him, didn't have a weapon, right? And he had this camera that was pistol gripped, like almost like a movie camera. Three lens, they call it. And he was filming my father. The woman standing next to him has the case around her neck. He opens the case, hands him the gun. He hands her the camera. There's a fellow, Jerry Gennaro. He rests on his shoulder. If Jerry goes like this, my father doesn't get shot. In between my father and the handgun, it's my brother Joey. He tries to grab the bullets. Tormented him his whole life. He couldn't stop it. And if you watch the still pictures, holding, there was like a midget there holding his hand, yelling for help. The cops immediately handcuff Jerome Johnson and take him to the floor. 17, 16, 15 cops on top of him. He's resisting. A guy named Philip Brazillo crawls under the cops while they're handcuffing him. It's between them and the cops with them on top of him. Empties a 38 in them with his prints on it, leaves the gun. When he crawls out, loses his shoe. Walks to the hospital, Roosevelt Hospital, where my father was. One shoe covered in blood. It stands by my father. Now, was he a member of organized crime? No. Was he this? He just loved my father. He stayed with was our friend. We knew he had a gun. My father didn't want nobody around him with a gun. So, moving forward. I was a kid. I didn't know about it till afterwards, but I watched it on the film. You see him do it. He crawls out. One shoe, leave the gun. History Channel said they talked to the cop that was there. Did you find the gun? Yeah, where'd it go? We don't know. Where's the shoe? We don't know. Did you see a guy crawling? Yeah. You crawled out. Did you stop him? No. Does it make sense to you?
Not really.
Okay. Well, the feds say they gave up all their things, but they're the ones that took it. They say it on the History Channel because they were laying it out the way I talked it, but then it was interceded and stopped. You know, freedom of speech, freedom. Well, nobody tells the truth. Okay. All you had to do was trace down. That's why there was a link to the shooter was the woman. Why wouldn't you want that woman being apprehended? Yeah. And if she said that it was part of, and the whole thing was the car backed off the leak. Called him back off the leak. He didn't stop supporting it.
Which is what we alluded to earlier. You don't have to go against
and what is the reason for that? My father was made a deal by the FBI. My brother, he told you. He drove him. He said, I want to see him. You won. Listen, you won. You took Mafia, Cosa Nostra. You hope the people you backed this up. You and your family will never get arrested again. Back off the league. You know what my father says, right? Can't do that. They says, well, you know what we're going to do. Do what you got to do. Joe, you're not going to live. I'm not backing off my people. When he didn't do that, they went to Carl to back off. I don't think Carl knew it was an assassination by the government, but he thought that if he backed off the league, he made that same deal. And he was the fall story. I hate to think that he knew when the government did it because that would make him a lot less in my eyes.
Right.
Well, I mean, I don't like what he did to begin with.
Yeah.
Because he was alive and free and American because of my father and the league. What other questions do you have?
Well, you take, those two narratives. Obviously, I think they're very false. They don't make a whole lot of sense. And one of the key things that I want to point out of, I can say that I can give my opinion. Somebody can say, well, where's your basis? Number one, if I recruit you to do a favor for me of that magnitude.
Well, here's the problem. But
you're going to expect something in return.
Okay. If Carl Gambino, who's Capo de Cuti Capo, which doesn't exist anymore as Sylvan Rabbit, now it fits that he's this whatever. And Joe Gallo comes out of jail. The whole Gallo Pavachi thing is over. Larry has passed on. Bobby Borriello is hanging out with it. There's not a power structure there for them anymore. Follow me? What did Joe Gallo get out of this? And if Carl is true Capo de Cuti Capo, and he enlists Joe Gallo to do this to Joe Colombo in promise of what did he get? 11 months later, he was assassinated. So wouldn't that be a slap in the face to Capo de Cuti Capo?
A big one.
Awesome. Way to go. What happened?
And then what did he benefit in the
middle of that? What did Carl benefit and what did...
Yeah, nobody benefited.
Right.
So nobody benefited, and it goes against the exact narrative that they wanted to take out your father because he was drawing attention.
And do something that draws
more attention.
With in front of 200,000 Italians. Oh, and who was there too? Nelson Rockefeller was there. Barry Cuomo was before he was governor, but he was there. Abe Beam, who became mayor of New York, he was there. Father Gigante, a priest, he was there. And what about all the women and children who were there? It could have been it.
Yeah.
Was that Carl Gambino's grand scheme to keep things on the low down or the down low?
It doesn't sound like a Carlo Gambino plan to me.
Now, Carl Gambino says he didn't do it because he told me he didn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
He asked to see us. We went and picked him up shortly afterwards. He got in the car with all of us, with the brothers. Do you think if Carl Gambino killed my father and the rest of us, we were going to say, thanks, Carl, you're capo de cuti capo. Appreciate it, buddy.
I got a feeling that conversation would have went a little different.
Yeah, absolutely. And we knew he didn't do it.
Yeah.
He just wanted to reassure.
Now, Michael Franzese is also in this documentary.
Yeah, I love Michael. I don't agree with everything Michael says, but I don't agree with everything everybody says. But go ahead. Yeah. What's your question?
He's in the documentary. He makes some mention that before your father's shot, he looks at him and he says, "Don't worry, this is going to help out your father." And according to Michael, at that time, his father is holding the rank of underboss of the family.
You know, let me just say this to you. I care for Michael. I loved his Father's Day when I was born. Sullivan Rabbins never said that, and I have never heard that whatsoever. But it suits the agenda at the time, I guess. I don't know. I have no knowledge of that, and I've never heard that anywhere else till that day. But I just left it off. I didn't care. But maybe Michael got a little confused. I'll tell you why. When I got violated and went to jail in 2010 or 9, I came out of halfway house, but they made me have to do 10 months of the halfway house, and I couldn't do it. So I spent Christmas with the kids violated. I had enough of that nonsense. Plus, they were giving my bed to a pedophile, and I didn't want to sleep in bed, so I was sleeping standing up. Anyway, at that period of time, I missed Sonny in the MDC. And I love Sonny. I respected Sonny. If there is a picture of stand-up man in a dictionary, the thesaurus, the encyclopedia should be stand-up man should be Sonny. Mm-hmm. Sonny was convicted of bank robbery. He did not commit. There was no conspiracy. The people convicted of it said it. Everybody said it. They just framed him. The government says it. Jerry Capici says it. There's nobody didn't. They just railroaded him. I don't know whatever you portray Sonny to be, but because he was Italian and portrayed as organized crime, they put him in jail, gave him 50 years. And he ended up doing, 50 out of the 50 on violations. Mm-hmm. Because he wasn't staying away from his friends. He didn't give a shit to put him in jail. That was just Sonny. Yeah. I got to tell you something. Sonny was a man's man, is a man's man wherever he is. And I'm going to say that once again. And under the thing, stand up is Sonny Franzese. I have no bad I could ever, or anyone could ever say about that man, as far as a character, honor, and discipline. But I never heard that whatsoever by anybody. I don't know who Sullivan Rab says was the underboss and all that. I don't know if it's true, it's not true, but I've never heard it except until I saw the History Channel saying Sonny was that.
You know, a lot of
moving forward, maybe Michael got confused a little bit. Because in 2010, he was back in 90-something years old in the MDC. I missed him by one day. I was looking forward to seeing him. Naturally, not under those circumstances.
Right.
But I ended up, Frank Campagnoni was his roommate when I got there. He used to stay with me. So I missed Sonny by one day in the MDC. I think he was 90-something years old. In that case, he was reported by the government, Sullivan Rab, Miss... Alvin and the Chipmunks historian. The other guy who looks with the glasses, looks like he's doing an acid trip. That cast of characters, I don't know where they came from, but what their base of knowledge is, I don't think they know either. They were just connecting the dots to salvage this History Channel thing that was depending some on me. Now, but when they got what they heard, it went against their grain, and they believed it. Mm-hmm. They told me they believed it. I mean, I showed them. That'd be stupid not to. So, and I called them afterwards. I said, "What'd you think?" I said, "Chris, we tried. They hated it. Whatever." Well, they were the production company. Nice fellas, all of them. I don't hold them against it. Nobody wants to tell the truth. Nobody wants to hear the truth. My problem is you're glorifying these things. You're causing racial disharmony. You're causing disrespect. Like these informants are going to ruin their family name. They rewrite history because they collapsed. They showed no character. They showed no honor. They showed no discipline. They just buckled.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they did everything they did. It's inhuman. Killing 15-year-old boys. Alan Kaiser. Is that his name, Alan?
Alan Kaiser, yeah.
Yeah. But the line sometimes I forget, but I don't forget him. If I could save one Alan Kaiser, I can't resurrect him. I could save one Alan Kaiser, I did good.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my goal. That's why I give the interviews I did, to educate the children that this is not a life that you pursue. Go out, let me be an arsonist, a murderer, this, attack, shake people down. They get caught. I want to tell everybody I know. True or not true? I don't know.
And that kind of brings me to my next point about, a situation where, you were approached to do that. All right. So I do want to reference one thing, by the way you just spoke about Sonny Franzese.
Yeah.
The one thing that is held true
in his case, that when he was in the MDC, that case, he was purported at that period of time of being the underboss.
Yes. There's one thing that holds true that everybody said a lot what you just said. Through any book, any documentary, any interview, informant, not informant, anything that I've ever read, the details of Sonny have always been the same. Stand-up guy, man's man. Not a bad thing to say. Everybody. That's the one thing that I can say has stayed unified across the board anytime his name is brought up. Got to be. Because we know how people like to change.
Walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, swims like a duck. What is it?
It's got to be a duck.
Okay.
Now, as you say, moving forward with this, your father, sadly, he does wind up, passing away.
7 years later.
The Colombo name, or Colombo crime family name, I should say, is still being used to paint people and convict people before they're even arrested.
I could explain that to you.
Explain.
I've had my own problems with the law.
Correct.
When they first arrested me, they couldn't say Colombo crime family because I didn't have any part of it.
Right.
So they created the Colombo Brothers Crew. And for that, they threw my brother Anthony in.
Mm-hmm.
I never committed a crime with my brother Anthony. I was bookmaking. My brother Anthony was there. That case was beat with him from day one because there was 26 counts between me and him that never existed. It was thrown out the first day of trial. It was like 146 of us arrested. I was purported the head of this thing. It was a gambling consortium, which I love for gambling. I won't deny it. But there was nothing between me and my brother. Another fella, Jerry Green Eyes Clemenza. I'll never forget. They had served search warrants on me and hit my mortgage company. They hit my home improvement company. They took all the computers. They came in with shotguns. Nobody wanted to do business with me. They thought there was an overlap into gambling, that I was laundering or this. None of it to be true.
Mm-hmm.
I gambled. That was monkey business. It was fun. But my legitimate business, you see, I work very diligently.
Mm-hmm.
A lot. I have a good work ethic. I believe in it. I teach it. I teach it to the young kids. You see it. Moving forward, they made me wait 3 years. They had hearings of organized crime task force. Elliot Spitzer was attorney general. Real moral man that guy is. And he was going to become governor on my name. And Pretender Barara, Obama's favorite henchman, was going to become head of the Southern District on losing my case. Imagine he loses it, they give him a promotion. Anyway, when they come to arrest me, I've been waiting for them to come and arrest me. They investigated me for years. They served search warrants, kicked everybody's doors in. They kicked the doors in here. I don't know what they came. They had 170 agents, 17 different agencies, Attorney General's office, every organized crime task force from Kings County, Manhattan County, Staten Island, Bronx County, Orange County, Sullivan County, Dutchess County, Rockland County, all those counties, major crime units, Attorney General's organized crime task force, all the organized crime task force. The organized crime task force, 170 agents. First, they came with an extraction SWAT team. It's because of my dog. They were flying helicopters. They jumped out of them with machine guns, with things. What do? I had a pet, a bookmaker. Told them when they came in, I was standing on the floor. After they came in, they put me on the floor. They put everybody. They did wait for my children and my ex-wife to leave. I hailed them for that. And I was respectful. I sent out for donuts and pizza. I says, take anything you want. Just please don't leave anything. And then there was a representative of the FBI, because I knew this was going federal, because the state didn't know how to put the case together. Needed the RICO law.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did was I tried not to be home at 5, 6 in the morning when they come. I want to be somewhere else, get pinched, not in front of my kids. Not that I was avoiding it. I just didn't want to get pinched for the kids.
Right.
So what happens is I'm somewhere else and I get a beep on my beeper. I'm telling me beepers. Cell phones were as preeminent then. It's 2004. They served search warrants in 2001. So one day I overslept. They go. I get the call and he says, "Hey, Chris, how are you?" I said, "It's good." He put my home number in. That's why I called. I says, "How you doing?" He says, "I'm agent." I said, "I figured." I says, "You came to arrest me." He says, "Yeah." I says, "Listen, I'm an hour north, but I'm closer. Where are we going?" He says, "We're going to Foley Square over there, Federal Court, Southern District." I said, "I'll meet you there." He says, "No, we'll wait here for you." I said, "All right." I said, "It'll take some time to be faster if we get there." So I says, "Okay, I'll come home." Actually, I come home. They're in the driveway waiting for me. I said, "How you doing?" He says, "Yeah." State troopers were transporting me, and they cuffed me by my hat pretty bad, hard, and had me in the car. It was uncomfortable. The FBI agent was really nice. He comes over. He says, "Cuff him in the front. We're not worried about him." So I'm going to be riding with you. Says, "Okay." So I have no choice. He says, he cuffed me in the front. He says, "Would you like to go in and say goodbye to your kids and whatever? You're going to be home shortly. This is an old thing. There's no violence." I said, "I'm not coming home." I said, "They're going to paint me with the Colombo name." And I says, "I'm going to be held without bail if I ever get out." He said, "I don't see it." I says, "Want to make a bet?" Because I asked him, "Could I just take my jewelry off? I wear Our Lady of Fatima, and I had a second one I gave to my son with a second chain, St. Jude, patron saint of lost and impossible causes. If nobody fits that description, it's me." Right? So they made me wait 3 years to come and get me in there. And everybody I wrote a check to, everybody I talked to on the phone, everybody said I was called to these hearings on me. And the funny thing is, in 2001, 9/11 happened. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. The Attorney General of the United States is screaming at a press conference. He says, "Where's our task forces? Where's our police? We got 105 agents on a local bookmaker. They thought I had the most juice in the world. Like people are flying planes into buildings. I'm a priority."
Yeah.
He said it.
You kind of got your priorities mixed up a little bit there.
That was the Attorney General of the United States thought so.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of agree with him. So anyway, I mean, me taking a bet, it's a lot worse than, innocent people dying. I'm a problem of national security.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was driving down. I'm telling the FBI agent, I says, "Can we stop at Piper's Kilts?" I said, because they went through Westchester. I says, "At Scarsdale, let's get a nice cheeseburger." He said, "Why do you want to eat so bad?" I said, "Because I'm getting bologna sandwiches for the next 4 days, minimum, until they put me into population."
Yeah.
He says, "No, it's Chris, I'm telling you, we're going to print you." He says, "We got the whole thing set up. There's 146 of us we got." He says, "We're going to print you. You'll be home for dinner." I said, "Wow, I'm telling you, I'm not coming home for dinner." He laughs. He says, "You'll see." I said, "No, you'll see." That's the FBI agent, right? So, but he was there in the capacity of, like, he was also here when they served the search warrants. But at that time, it was a state case. They couldn't make their case because it didn't make any sense. They glued it together like the History Channel. But moving forward, so when I get there, they have a whole big room set up. It's like the top of a gymnasium because they had to print the 146, 164 of us, I forget. And they had the processes and all that. And they had a gymnasium. Like, it was very coordinated, like different tables. And everybody's like handcuffed to the thing and who's not handcuffed. And so one agent wants to come over and talk to me. And the guy said to him, "Don't talk to him," right? He says, "I'm retiring tomorrow. I could give two shits," he says. "Chris, how you doing?" "All right." He says, "Relax." He says, "We're talking." And he's talking to me and whatever. So they process me. Now I got to go before the judge. Everybody has to go before the judge.
Mm-hmm.
Most got out. So they bring me into, and Jerry Clemenza, Jerry Green Eyes was already processed. Now, I have never committed a crime with him in my life, and I have never known him to commit a crime. So they put me in this cell, the holy cell. It's a pretty big one. And I walk in and I say, "Jerry, what are you doing here?" "What am I doing here?" "I'm on your case." "You're on my case." And how you end up on my case? And I love Jerry. He used to pinch me ever since his high chair. He says, maybe they found out you used to be in my high chair when our mothers used to play cards. He says, I can't figure it out. I said, Jerry, I'm apologizing to him. Sorry, pal. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you're involved in this, but he says, Chris, they picked me up in my house, and he's got a good sense of humor, Jerry. And he says, I got up this morning, I was surrounded by feds. And they told me the charges. He goes, like, out of my cousin Vinny, I shot the clerk. He goes, I shot the clerk. The FBI agent says to him, now, you're facing a lot of time here. You're making jokes. He says, well, what do you want me to do? I shot the clerk. He goes to him, I thought it was the greatest line in history. You get arrested and said, I shot the clerk. After they told him what the charges are, I shot the clerk. He goes, we're sitting there, and we're laughing because it's pathetic. Jerry ended up taking a plea, 36 months for the trial. We postured because he didn't want to go through a trial and all that. The judge lowered the 36 months to 8 months in the hospital. I think he was out in 6. She couldn't see what the hell he did wrong.
Yeah.
But she couldn't throw the case out because he already took a plea.
Right. So they tried to paint you as the Colombo brothers.
Well, let me finish.
Okay.
So now the regular guys take over. Not just the fed that transported me, right? I go before the judge. But before I go before the judge, they bring me in like I'm Hannibal Lecter. Shackled, black box, double, whatever. And the feds looking at me, I'm looking at him while they're watching him do this. It was for a show. So Pretender Barara says, as they're bringing me in, and they got guns to me as I'm walking before the judge, it was the most liberal magistrate in the world. It's a miracle I didn't get bail. It was Harry Slotnick dropped the ball. And speaking of my cousin Vinny, you remember when the guy stuttered?
Oh, yeah.
My entire lawyers, Barry Slotnick, had laryngitis that day. It was amazing. So they tell the judge, they says, listen, Your Honor, before you come up, you want to walk out, stay back there. Do you want us to put a bulletproof petition up before you arraign him? Now, this case is already, I don't know how many years old. He said, no, I don't think that's necessary. And he looks at me and says, Mr. Colombo, you're not looking to bother me. I'm on I can't walk. I'm on a hand truck. Your Honor, how can I do it? I said, I can't figure this out myself. But he laughs, I laugh. They have the hearing and refused bail. Because Barry Slotnick, all he had to say was Chris Colombo does not meet the criteria of the Bail Reform Act, danger to the community. Now, I wasn't given a high bail because I was running away. I was refused bail, and then later I got a $5 million bail as a danger to the community.
Yeah.
So with that, they tell me I can't take my jewelry. So I take it off, and I give it to the FBI agent. I told you so. I said, I wish I would have bet you would have should have took that bet. He laughed. He says, I'll bring you your jewelry to the lawyers, he says. And he did. And I got it back. But that's the grandstanding they did.
Wow. At any point in time, did anyone ever come to you and try to get you to tell on anyone else? Like try to get you to become an informant? Your whole life.
Whole life.
Now, I'm assuming you had a similar response for every request.
It's a little vulgar. Back to the Colombo brothers crew. Okay. You got Jerry Clemenza. I'm running the operation. I got Jerry here, my brother Anthony there. They never did anything together. I never did anything with the two of them. So I don't know how they were going to prove a RICO.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons I chose to go to trial, but it was still stacked against me. 72 counts in federal trial. Southern District, 96% conviction rate. And let me tell you something. They had me packaged off. Miracles happened to beat the case.
Well, and that's kind of what we talked about too with that name Colombo, or you can take it if it's a whole different faction of people, Gambino or whatever.
Was, I catch a judge, very hard judge, very good judge. Part of the reason why I gave up bookmaking, she actually saved my life by giving me a fair trial. Now, how did she do that? She was the judge. I had 2 shots at the bail hearing. Barry Slotnick and his laryngitis ruined it. I'm not getting out of jail. We have a 3rd bail hearing in front of her, and she grants me thing. But I'm in, I'm out on the 2nd one, but I'm 18 months. I'm in here without a visitor or nothing. I'm starting daycare to drop the kids off. But moving forward, she hears it and then she reduces it to a curfew. Mm-hmm. But it was very, I was allowed to use a phone or computer. God forbid I made a bet. It could be bad for the government and people. I mean, look how bad you would be affected down south.
Yeah.
But anyway, moving forward. When they told the judge that this is the Colombo brothers crew, my lawyer says, Your Honor, it doesn't exist. It's a moniker. So she turns to the prosecution. She says, this is a street name. It's known as, it's a moniker. We call them that. She says, nobody else calls them that? She says, no. They don't call themselves that? She says, no. She says, well, so I know who they are. Why don't you go get hats and T-shirts? She makes a joke. It was hysterical. Say Colombo Brothers Crew. So she struck. And if you still read the article in the New Yorker, I explained that to the writer. All you had to do was look at my court case. It's there.
Mm-hmm.
She struck Colombo Brothers Crew for my case, which is a major, not victory, but truism that helped my thing. Now, she also they couldn't use my father's name or made member in organized crime because my case didn't warrant it. Right. It was a witch hunt, and I was finished. To this day, I thank her.
And you were never involved in organized crime?
Not my stick.
Why not?
Give my father my word, I wouldn't.
How did that conversation go?
What do you mean?
He just told you this is not the type of life you want to have?
Absolutely forbid it. I mean, it wasn't a conversation. It was a direct request of my father to his sons.
And I think what the point
to be honest
is,
with you, I wasn't arguing with him. That's what he wanted to date. He was 16 when I was 16 when he passed. That's what he wanted. That's what I did.
Well, and a lot of how they do that with that name, and this happens outside of the parameters of that, but they want you guilty from the court of public opinion before you ever get in front of a judge.
I used to say to my mother, they'll never let him get away with it. They'll kill him. Come on, is there a secret organization in a country called they? There is.
Yeah.
Believe me.
There definitely is.
We just don't know exactly as citizens who they is, but to the power structure. And I'm not against the FBI. It's a well-needed, great organization. COINTELPRO division, the secret division of the FBI, started by J. Edgar Hoover. And it's been proven. Professors, and the only good thing, and I agreed to the New Yorker thing, and they spent 3 days, and all they talked about is fistfights I had a very angry period, but I never started anything, and I always got hit first. I'll tell you why, put your arm out. That's my reach. I know I'm getting hit first, and I'm not getting close to somebody cold cocked and that's cowardly. So all my life I'm used to taking 5 shots to give one. My one is usually pretty good.
Yeah. It's hard to ignore the parallels between what happened to your father and what almost happened to Donald Trump. We covered it on the last episode, but it's just so in your face. It's hard to deny it.
Here that time, because you were amazed that you would call me and we just came up when I think about the trials and all that. I said that one of his first rallies you're going to see, they're going to try and assassinate him.
Yeah, you called it.
And on the podcast, I said to you, how did I evaluated it? No, I coached football for youth, 31 years. Films, I have philosophy. People are creatures of habit, and practice makes permanent.
Mm-hmm.
Not perfect. Practice it wrong, you'll do it wrong. Practice it okay, you'll do it okay. Practice it right, you'll do it right.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually become perfect. And people are creatures of habit. The same parameters, try to put him in jail, slur his name, everything they did it to my father. And that was the code of last resort. I just hope he didn't make the deal like my father did. Mm-hmm. They offered a deal. In this country, there's a scapegoat. The Democrats and Republicans become each other's scapegoats. It's disgusting. And I hear Donald Trump say that he's going to unite the country, and I believe he will.
I do too.
And not only that, every other politician comes in broke and leaves with 9 mansions.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be representatives of the people. How can a person like Nancy Pelosi, 109 years old, who have vultures, and God bless her, I wish her not 100, can relate to any problems that are in the streets? Donald Trump came from there. He's a businessman. Plus, what does he need to rob? I don't need it. I mean, anybody qualified to be president wouldn't want to be.
Yeah.
What'd they do to you?
They do. If you ever look at before and after photos of when people take office and when they get out of office, it looks like they've been married for 60 years to a nagging wife. I mean, they come out with gray hair. They look older. Their eyes are shrunk. I mean, they look totally different.
I never noticed that. I don't see the analogy, but listen, If it floats your boat, how's your marriage? Is it anything like that?
No. Mine's good.
All right. So how would you know?
Well, I've heard stories.
Well,
and I've
where
seen
did you
people
hear these stories?
from the husbands.
All right.
These are going to the source stories.
Right. Well, they're complaining their side. You hear the wife's point of view? I'm a big fan of women.
You look at Obama when he went in, sharp dress.
I don't want to look at Obama
out.
at all.
When he comes out, he's looking like he's almost ready to check out. Yeah, I just wanted to mention that
Mrs. Obama was not nice to him.
Yeah, I wasn't in their bedroom, so I'm not sure.
Don't
want to be either.
That's your choice. I stay out of those things.
I just wanted to mention the parallels with Trump because it does jump off the page at you. And the fact that you did call that they would have tried to attempt assassination on his life.
And on the podcast, I said that shooter had that guy in his sights.
Yeah. And it comes out now that he definitely
watch the same way I came up with the picture that they zoomed in of the accomplice. Watch Donald Trump standing there. Right here is the assistant director of the FBI, a woman. I played that out and zoomed in her face. If I didn't do it 1,000 times, I didn't do it once. I watch the films. You can coach. It's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Mistakes.
Watch film. Where people are at.
She goes like this. She looks at the shooter. She looks at Trump. She looks at the shooter. She looks at Trump. You hear the shots. No changed expression on her face. Look like anticipation. She ducks down for a second and gets up with the camera. I believe she knew it was coming.
I think a lot of people knew it was coming. And luckily, by the grace of God, he turned his head.
You sit behind Donald Trump and you just hear multiple shots from an automatic weapon. You're still doing that? And you pop up immediately and start filming him on the floor?
Yeah.
Going on, shoot it down. You had it all.
Yeah. And I'll be honest with you.
If it's a crane, the gunman couldn't he have shot her too?
He could have.
Is she that brave woman? The other thing I can't understand is how tall is Donald Trump?
I don't know, right off.
6'2", 6'3"?
Got to be 6 foot something.
6'2", 6'3".
Yeah.
There was 2 tall secret agents, and then there was 2 women who got to be 5'3".
You would think there would be a height requirement for that.
Yeah, we protected him, but they could hit him from the heart up. I mean, are we protecting Donald Trump's generals?
That was a little odd because you got everybody up. It's almost like they're like right up under his underarms, and then all this is still exposed.
Yeah, it was a little strange to me.
The whole thing's a little strange. And I'll be honest, Chris, when you said that, it's one of the only things that we've talked about a lot of stuff since we've known each other. A lot of conversations.
Yeah.
We talk once, twice a week, sometimes more. Yeah. That was the only time I was like, I don't think he's right on that. I don't think it's going to happen. And you proved me wrong. Well,
when you're the victim of a true conspiracy, you can see them coming and you're not a conspiratist.
Yeah. Well, and just like I can kind of see how, things were in the courts, how they try to paint you as guilty before you even get there. They paint you as this monster for this, that reason or the other. I went through a similar experience like that where they try to, paint me and smear me. And they do that to a lot of people. You shot the clerk.
Well, it's he's great.
They do that to a lot of people. And
imagine
I think people don't realize.
He says, what am I being arrested for? When they read him the charges, he goes, I shot the clerk.
Yeah, it's just amazing how many people get done that way, and it shows how flawed this justice system really is. And another thing I wanted to hop on really quick, the justice system is not only flawed, a lot of times Hollywood is flawed.
Oh, they caused all these problems and the sensations. And not a podcast. I thought podcasts, but I got to remember, for 5 years of my life, plus going to jail and trial, I wasn't allowed to have a computer or a phone. Mm-hmm. You could have a phone. If you had to call my kids, I could talk to you. You could talk on the phone. They could talk to them. What sense that made? I don't know, but I listen.
Godfather of Harlem.
Let me before we get to Godfather of Harlem, let me finish this.
Okay.
So I didn't understand the advances of computers, so I thought to have this knowledge. So I first, Google was great. What does this mean? What does that mean? It's terrific. I try to expand my knowledge. I'll try it at my fingertips. Oh, no, it didn't turn out that way. There's more nonsense on the internet. I mean, there's no truth on the internet. You got to sift through the nonsense to get to the truth. I thought it would bring you right to it.
I think that's one thing that makes it so hard these days. You really do have to dig for it. You have to work for the truth because there's so much non-truth out there on top of it. Oh, you got to work. And
all these people have an agenda. What's my agenda? Okay, I'd like to see my children, all children, grow up in a better world. and set the examples of what you should and shouldn't do. You have all these informants that ruin their lives, put people in jail, some rightfully, maybe, but some not rightfully. Would you trust anything they have to say? No. Where's their dignity? Where's their integrity? They sold out every which way. I can understand if I'm guilty of something, I feel bad, I turn myself in. And I hate the body. Could you grab that? Who is this? Hello? Can I call you back? I'm filming a podcast. Oh, let me see. No pictures yet. I'm sorry. All right, no,
No, I'll cut that out.
Please. People emulate, they don't understand the power of the press. When I was in jail, people thought Tony Soprano was a real person. I swear to God to you. Everybody was acting gangster crazy. Start with the evolution of The Godfather. People emulate what they see on TV.
Mm-hmm.
They emulate what they see. I mean, I don't know what kind of man. I mean, does it make me a man that I could shoot up a house and blow up a car? Then when I get arrested, I tell on everybody I know? Is that a man? I mean, I believe might does not make right. Right makes might. And I consider myself a soldier of God. I met him a few times. People can be very surprised when they die. Died multiple times. Matter of fact, I'm dead man walking now. You know, there is nothing they can do for me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's over. It's a matter of when I choose to give up. Okay. So when I come and I expend energy, it's the great self-pain and sacrifice. And you see what I do. Anthony over here, he works for me. You came to the funding office. I'm not a partner there. It's my children's. With a dear friend of mine that is as much of a CEO and a leader I've ever met. I'm behind him 100%. Proud of what he's done. It's a true American story. And moving forward, I'm trying to instill, if you take the crime out of what they say is the Italian-American organized crime, morals and ethics, they are the best in the world that could save this country, the principles.
Mm-hmm.
That's my opinion. And when I see people that have abused women, children, elderly, handicapped, challenged, disrespected, and think that there's something noble in that or manly in that, I believe they are cowards. And if they do want to challenge me, let them do it. They know what they are. They have to look in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
To fill the internet and Hollywood, take Joe Colombo's good messages, the camps he built, the hockey teams, the chapters, the lives he saved, whatever, and stigmatize him, whatever he was or he wasn't, he was and belonged to the Italian people.
Mm-hmm.
And he died for them, and he suffered for them. And he would have it no other way because he wasn't a coward. And I vote for that any day.
Absolutely. Get my vote too.
Let me ask you something. You've seen history. On the informants you've interviewed, quite a few, right?
Yes.
If your son turned out like any of them, would you be disappointed?
Yes.
If your son turned out like Joe Colombo, would you be disappointed?
No.
And you're from where, South Carolina?
Yeah.
We have no overlap. I spent time in South Carolina. I like the South. I always did. But would you be disappointed if your son held to the views and the morals and conducted himself like Joe Colombo did?
Not
Would you be disappointed if the way the informants and some of these crazy people you've interviewed?
Mm-hmm.
That's what's on the internet. That's what's affecting your children. Our children, and people should watch that. Want to tell the truth.
And like you said, it extends from the podcast over to Hollywood and
Hollywood
TV shows
first.
and films.
Hollywood first. All the guys doing a podcast think that they're going to get discovered and they're going to make their movie like Henry Hill.
Mm-hmm.
Mikey Scar, he was around the league as a kid. He named the head of that chapter, Philip Diaguardi. I listened. Philip Diaguardi ran the camp that my father opened for, I don't know how many thousands underprivileged kids. And he was there at the camp up to 14. That was his neighborhood. That was his chapter. He tortured Phil Diaguardi.
Mm.
They set his car on fire. Mikey Scott told the truth. They made fun of him. He told the truth. He told the truth that the kids in the neighborhood just going to a candy store. My father picked up the tab. Didn't allow drugs. Told the kids, get them out of the neighborhood. You don't want that. And he was starting with a young age, and he protected them. And he made sense of that. Right up to the point he said the offer was true about Joe Colombo. Because he's not going to go against Paramount. He's not going to go because he's sitting around with that smile and I'm a slow pigeon. That he thinks somebody's going to make his movie. Mm-hmm. They're not going to make his movie. And if they do, be another nonsense thing. Mm-hmm. And because they don't need him. You got Alvin and the Chipmunks girl there, and Carl Gambino felt this way. And then you got the guy doing acid. That guy, I've never seen him before. And I believe that Joe Colombo was a billionaire in extortion. And one would say he was a businessman, but he was extorting. Extorted what? Do you know what the price of membership was for the Italian American Civil Rights League?
I do because you told me, but our people don't.
How much did I tell you?
$10
a year.
For
that, you got a sticker you put in your store, one you put in your car, and you had the access. Your kids went to camp. They built hospitals. You heard Steve Aiello said, you don't lie. And the chapters in each neighborhood, there was multiple chapters in some neighborhood. Your kids are going to take care. They got karate lessons. There's a roller hockey league, a baseball league, a football league, Christmas parties, feasts, entertainment, and the elderly was taken care of.
Sounds like a good deal for $10 a year.
Well, yeah. Well, no, they also produced money. When they had a feast, they sold the sausage and peppers, the Zeppelins, the rides. I mean, the entertainment shows. I mean, the money went to the people.
Yeah.
You know what my brother Anthony was making as vice president of the league? It was his full-time job.
What?
$250 a week. Oof. What? Do you want to know how extent the harassment to my father was?
Yeah.
My father, after having 3 boys, wanted a girl desperately. His sister had 3 boys with the same names. Anthony after the grandfather, Joseph after my father, Vincent after my father's stepfather. He's called Vince. My grandmother remarried. Nice man. My father never called him Dad. He called him Vince. But he named my brother Vincent after him. Really nice guy. He loved him very, very much. We all did. So he wanted a girl more than anything. So why there's 11 years difference between me and my brother Vinny? You got to remember, I have the access and the knowledge from my older brothers. They were there through all of it. Mm-hmm. So my mother had 9 miscarriages trying to have another baby. Then I came. You want to count me? I'm 10 miscarriages. No, but had my mother had a girl, I would not have been born. Mm-hmm. I mean, they were trying for a girl. My sister was a change of life. He kept going. And on October 7th, 1965, my sister Catherine was born. My father gets the call. And he's going to the hospital. And there's the FBI. They knew. They had his phone tapped. And they tell him, this is, we're going to indict you on income tax evasion. He says, agents, all due respect, you could not indicting me. Nothing could ruin this day. I got a daughter. Have a great day. And he just walked past them.
And see, that's what we've said. And you've said this many times. The truth is better than fiction in a lot of those ways. The fiction that they put on TV and stuff. The truth is better. How would you not like that story? How could anybody not like that story?
Listen, I thought, and I opened up a little bit to the History Channel, and they believed me, the people that produced. That's why you seen the thing come out. They asked the cop, where's the gun? And the agent gave blood to my father. He felt bad. Mm-hmm. They know.
What do you think when you watch shows like The Godfather or Harlem? What do you take away from them?
It's an atrocity. You have, right now, you're Wade, Hollywood Wade, whatever. If somebody used your name and portrayed you in real life situations and added to it, you can sue them. Once you die, you have no legacy in your name. Mm-hmm. So what they did, I'll go back to where it started. They did The Godfather Harlem, Bumpy Johnson. Bumpy Johnson was a nice man. He definitely represented the black community. And Numbers policy, they make him to be a heroin dealer. I don't know that to be true.
Right.
Numbers started in Harlem. Mm-hmm. It was a homegrown. They invented it.
The Queen.
True story. Okay. Bumpy Johnson protected the Queen. because people are trying to take the numbers away from them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. On any other nonsense, I really never heard any of that nonsense. Frank Lucas and all that nonsense. Another stool pigeon.
Mm-hmm.
He's killing his own people. Wants to include Bumpy Johnson. Bumpy Johnson's already dead now.
Yeah.
Now, moving forward, there were representatives of each ethnic group that came out, and they got along and they coexisted. Godfather of Harlem. Why do I have a problem with the Godfather of Harlem? Joe Colombo was vehemently against drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the reason the government assassinated, they wanted the drugs. He was stonewalling them. They want drugs. And hated them. Drug rehabs then. Educating kids don't take pills. I mean, your pharmaceutical company, your biggest drug deals.
Yeah.
You go to the doctor, you take a pill to get up, a pill to go to sleep, a pill to relax, a pill to have energy. Adderall is cocaine in a pill. Oxycontin. You can't tell me that you invent a pill that's 20 times as powerful as heroin, heroin derivative, straight heroin, and 200 times more addictive. I mean, how do you invent that? But not only that, you could smoke it, you could snort it, you could pop it, you could inject it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to go to the drug dealer on the corner. How many kids die a day from opiates? How many people die a day from opiates? It's staggering. I think it's something like 300 a day and 200 kids. And they're not even real statistics because they die of the overdose for complications thereof.
Right.
All right. Now, what is the question you want to know about the Godfather Harlem? You have Joe Colombo. First of all, Vincent Gigante. I will not call him by his nickname, even though his mother called him that. It's not for me to say. I will not disrespect him. What if the Gigante family, now, Father Gigante baptized my sister and anointed my father and led the vigils. They was part of the Italian American Civil Rights League. They have my father with Vincent Gigante by Selman Robb. Wasn't even in the picture then.
Correct.
Let's use him because he's the basis of organized crime, everything. They have him as, he's the capo di tutti capo at the time, which didn't exist anymore because of Selman Robb. Mm-hmm. They got Joe Colombo having conflict with Vincent the Chin Gigante because he was sexually engaged with his daughter while he was married and had us. That was not a possibility with Joe Colombo. Not even he was against that. Number one. Okay. Well, let's say maybe it could be true. Well, his daughter was 6 and had an alternative lifestyle. Mm-hmm. I don't think she's ever been with a man. And I don't think Joe Colombo's going after 6-year-olds. No. Or letting anyone else do that is the key word in that phrase. Then they have him arguing. The Chin puts a hit out on him and Bumpy Johnson. And you got Joe Bonanno calling Bumpy Johnson the N-word. Italians didn't talk to ethnic groups like that because we would call that within our own ethnic group. Mm-hmm. Now you're causing racial disharmony. People are watching this. Joe Bonanno just called him. I was very surprised with Chaz Palminteri. I was very surprised with Forrest Whitaker that they allowed it as human beings to be exploited like that. Now you got Joe Colombo screaming, I gave you the heroin trade. What the heroin? I hated it. I took it away from Bumpy. What do you think of that? Bumpy was numbers, policy. When Frank Lucas was in heroin after Bumpy died. And his claim to fame is he was Bumpy's guy. I don't know. History has never painted Bumpy Johnson as a heroin dealer.
Well, and Bumpy spent a large time in prison. I think 10 years. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he was in prison from 52 to 80, 52 to 63. Yeah. And then died in 68.
Right.
So his run on the street wasn't even really that long.
No.
But yet he's communicating and having arguments with people that at that time weren't even on radar.
No, didn't exist. None of it existed. Yeah. Now, what happens if my grandchildren run into Bumpy Johnson's grandchildren and they have a conflict because of this movie? Or if I don't know the Gigante family and their aunt passes, God forbid, I don't want to see that. And they say your father was, great-grandfather was screwing around with my whatever, and one of them dies. I mean, Italians are very sad about their principles. Could happen.
Yeah.
All people are.
Yeah.
I mean, if you heard I was screwing your grandmother while I was married, would you be upset?
And it's amazed how many people don't know that about these dates. I remember when that TV series first come out, and I was watching it. Some people were talking about it on Facebook in a Facebook group that I'm in, and they were like, "Yeah, he was doing this, and Vincent couldn't do nothing about it." I'm like, Vincent couldn't do nothing about it because he wasn't even around when this was going on. Like the time periods don't even make sense, but people just take that
and they
as
use real
fact.
names, real situations. They don't care what they do.
Mhm.
The government paints a swim way. Hollywood is going in, taking the lead, and they're just desecrating the people's lives. Joe Colombo was Jeffrey Dahmer. I don't care if you paid him Jeffrey Dahmer.
Mhm.
Joe Colombo, none of this happened. Now let's get into the offer.
Yeah, The Offer is the next one.
Okay. Godfather Harlem is the most disgraceful, entertaining, disgraceful show I've ever seen.
Yeah, I can't knock the acting, but everything about it, timeline-wise, storylines, is not accurate whatsoever.
Yes. Coming out yelling at Bumpy Johnson, calling him the N-word. Bumpy Johnson did 10 years in jail or more. 20? What did he do?
Yeah, 10.
Legitimate tough human being.
Yeah.
Leader of his people. I don't think you're going to call him that to his face.
No.
What are you going to do, kill him? He don't care.
Yeah.
He was a prideful man.
Now, you mentioned it. Another one that jumped off the page was The Offer. And I've heard people make the statement, if you want to see what Joe Colombo was like, watch The Offer. What do you say to that?
Oh, come on. You want to get me going? I'm almost as mad at The Offer as Sammy the Bull for killing Alan Kaiser. I'm not giving a shit. And let me give you the history of it. Already, the two people, Blufeld was the guy that owned Paramount. He bought it. He was going to break it up and make money.
Right.
It was destined for the chopping block. He was like a corporate raider. Bob Evans, a genius, and David Bart, president of Paramount, vice president. Paramount's in trouble. They make a movie called Love Story.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's 68, 67, 66, 67, 68. Hits the box office with Ali McGraw, who's married to Bob Evans. She becomes America's sweetheart in Love Story. Ryan O'Neal becomes the guy you'd want your daughter to marry.
Mm-hmm.
You don't follow me? First $100 million film. I think movies were like 1968, 69, 25 cents.
Yeah.
How to do a $100 million movie. Okay.
It's a lot of quarters.
What?
That's a lot of quarters.
A lot of quarters. Al Ruddy got his popularity from Hogan's Heroes.
Mm-hmm.
He pitched it. He got it. It was a crazy theory about a concentration camp, making fun of the Germans, with underground that stayed in prison to do whatever. Very funny thing. And then he had arguments with them. He left. He comes to Paramount, and they're going to make the book The Godfather, from the book The Godfather.
Mm-hmm.
Mario Puzo. Great writer. Fantastic. Uses some real situations, real different names, but a lot of the stuff did happen in The Godfather. Okay. He casts Ryan O'Neal to be Sonny Corleone. Or when they get the greatest, well, two great directors. Martin Scorsese, without a doubt, and what was his name? Coppola? Directed The Godfather, is the line.
Coppola?
Yeah, Francis Ford Coppola, genius.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to make the movie, and he has this twist. And he's got Ryan O'Neal. He's got Marlon Brando agrees, which Mark was against. Al Ruddy's one of the producers on the show. This is a shot. It's an innovative idea. They thought he was a young exec. But the reason why they choose them, because if it doesn't work, he gets axed.
Mm-hmm.
That's Hollywood. Welcome to, you'll never work in this business again, kind of thing. Kind of like Spielberg was assigned to Jaws. Wasn't supposed to make it. He was the youngest exec, but it failed. They blame him. He's gone.
Yeah.
But he made a good movie. Okay. What happens is now, is the casting is half-ass backwards. All they have is Robert Duvall and Talia Shire, who's related to Francis Ford Coppola.
Mm-hmm.
And Ryan O'Neal's going to play Sonny. You got Marlon Brando. And that's the extent of their cast at this point. They want to shoot. They have the script. And they're going to play it by ear at this point. So they start shooting. And next thing you know, they shut down. the league shut it down through Lindsay's office. In the movie The Offer, they make it about Mario Biaggi, the most decorated to history New York City policeman that ever lived, first Italian congressman. He got in some trouble. Giuliani went after him because he wanted to destroy the Democratic machine and get his way to the White House because he thought New York was the way that Nelson Rockefeller did.
Mm-hmm.
He was a Democrat, became Republican. I don't know. Let him get hit with a RICO. He can get a taste of his own medicine. But consummate punctious pilot. Moving forward, they're going to shut the movie down. My father shuts it down. They can't get permits. Nobody's cooperating. Unions backed off them. Already takes $500,000 in a bag and comes to the Italian American Civil Rights League office. Makes an appointment with my father. Talk to me. Yeah, no problem. What is it? Tries to bribe him.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, look at that. Are you kidding me? I don't want your money. Bring the script. He says, you don't use the words Mafia, Cosa Nostra. He says, you're making an immigrant. He explains it's an immigrant story and it's the twist on it, the family and all that nonsense. Not nonsense, very valid points. Listen, I have no problem with that whatsoever. I'll help you. Comes with the script. The only true thing in the offer is they leave out the $500,000. Now, if Joe Colombo wanted to gangster him, doesn't he
take the $500,000?
Take the $500,000. I'd tell him what to do.
Yeah.
They're in no position to bargain.
Mm-hmm.
But he kind of liked Al Ruddy. As it turned out, Al Ruddy, egomaniac, thinks who he is. Wasn't allowed to do Godfather 2 because of the way he was. It threw him off set. But that helps him. That's where you get Al Pacino. You get James Caan. You get Abe Vigoda. You get Clemenza. Castellano played that part. Who else? Richard Conte. Joe Labella. Remember when they take a picture of Bazzini and they grabbed the camera and Bazzini plus whatever? He was the photographer that I gave the pictures for the league.
Mm-hmm.
The priest, Michael Rizzi, do you pronounce Satan? That was Bishop Andre Panaccio. That was the league's bishop. We casted the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, moving forward, he helps Al Ruddy. No problem. Okay. Al Ruddy comes to me in the 80s. Okay, then Al Ruddy has himself in this movie, The Offer. Now, Al Ruddy made that there was threats on his life. Well, nobody even paid attention to him. But Peter Bart and Bob Evans, the guys in Paramount. He was just a young producer. Peter Bart writes a column now. He's still on the internet with the column. I forget the name of it. He saw The Offer. Says Al Ruddy was in La La Land someplace. Now, that Giovanni Vapisi plays Joe Colombo. It's a cross between Dom DeLuise and Quasimodo. Mm-hmm. I'm saying talking like Ratso Rizzo from Midnight Cowboy. Completely insane. And they got him kidnapping Al Ruddy and death threats. Holly McGraw married to Bob Evans because he passed it. None of it ever happened. Peter Bart was the vice president, and they made him look bad. He says Al Ruddy's out of the thing. They have Joe Colombo. To get Al Ruddy at this point, calls Mickey Cohen up. Mickey, agent Al Ruddy makes an appointment to see Mickey Cohen. He goes there. Mickey Cohen's in the back room with machine guns, shotguns, with his crew, like in his restaurant or his bar. And he comes out and says, "Kid, this message is not for me. It's from Joe Colombo." He says, "One problem you have. Mickey Cohen was in jail, didn't get out till 73 or 74. He was in there from 60-something. So how he could get out of jail." My father had pull. I don't think he could have got Mickey Cohen out. But Mickey Cohen was preeminent in California. They just threw him in.
Yeah.
And then in the show they got The Offer, they shoot up Al Ruddy's car. Never happened. There's no police reports happened. The FBI show up and says, "Mickey Cohen missed on purpose, kid." He says, "It's a warning from Joe Colombo. You got the fence. All right? If he wanted you dead, you'd be dead. But Mickey Cohen's in jail." And now they have what they call the commission saying, "What are we going to do about this book?" Okay. And Tommy Lucchese is outraged. The only problem is Tommy Lucchese died 3 years before the book was written, never mind the movie. Okay. Carl Gambino was 6'7" and a Latin actor.
They definitely could have done a better job casting, especially his part. I thought that was very odd.
So the reason Al Ruddy did that is the biggest point in Al Ruddy's life is how sad this guy is. Was his experience with my father. It was a gentlemanly experience.
Yeah, they make it seem like your father was, being rough on him and intimidating him. And
helped to make the French Connection. I was in it.
Yeah.
I liked him. He was a young guy. He did what he was asked. He didn't make the Italian. He made a great movie. God bless you. I thought I loved the book, and he didn't get to see the movie, but he would have liked it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving forward. Okay, now everybody says, was Al Martino supposed to be Frank Sinatra? Okay. Yes. So they got my father asking already, is Frank Sinatra really Al Martino? My father casted Al Martino. It was Frank Sinatra, and that is a true story, but it wasn't a horse's head.
Right.
What happened is Waltz was Howard Hughes. And over Ava Gardner, she left him because Howard Hughes liked very young girls.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they show in the movie. And it outraged a lot of people. Follow me?
Mm-hmm.
Underage girls that he's fooling around with. Mm-hmm. And when they talked to him to give the part to Frank Sinatra, he didn't want to do it. He wanted to run him out of business because Ava Gardner left him. But she was a slave. Follow me?
Mm-hmm.
And he was so proud of that horse Howard Hughes that he had. They didn't cut the horse's head off. He wanted to put it out to stud. And it was kind of like a message what you're doing with these girls, and you want to use your horse just to not to run. So they castrated the horse with a vet, and they put the balls in its bed. Testicles. And he gives Frank Sinatra the part. So
was that Sally that did that?
What?
Was that Sally?
Sally who?
Who bots?
No. I think he cleaned it up in his mouth. So anyway, because he's Sally who bots. But that's a true story. And they got Frank Sinatra calling my father, calling up, screaming at him to go fuck himself. That's not a physical possibility.
Yeah.
They had a great relationship. Frank Sinatra, he gave me a pool table. We're sitting at. We're very, very close. He gave him on the interview, I showed him the ring from Tiffany's. He gave a perfect start sapphire as a gift to my father. And Tom Robbins, who did the days, I can't put that. We got to check. Nobody believe it. He says, he gave one to Sam Giancana, so maybe I believe it, he says. I found it. So these historians just look what other people wrote. And somebody named it Mafia, but yeah, I have a problem saying it. It's Morta, Accesi, Avante, Italia. Get the French out of our country, kill them and get them out of our country. That's what it means. Some historian somewhere read that and Americanized it and just labeled this. I don't think anybody within the people who got arrested call themselves that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anybody's running around except in the newspaper calling themselves the Colombo family.
Mm-hmm.
Just a name. Nobody gives themselves a name.
I do got a question about the offer because, they made it seem like
That's
some
the worst
people
thing I've ever seen.
were upset about that movie getting made, the book getting made into a movie. To your knowledge, was anybody upset about this being made into a movie?
What, The Godfather?
Yeah.
Oh, we helped them.
No, I'm not just talking about just your father. Anybody. Was anybody upset?
No. Great movie.
Yeah, well,
I like it.
I mean, it's regarded as one of the best movies of all time. I mean, you either see that or Citizen Kane. Yeah, I'm definitely going to watch Godfather over Citizen Kane.
I was all already making himself bigger.
Yeah.
He had a small part. He thought he could bribe Joe Colombo and guile him. He lives in his fantasy land. He might have watched too many gangster movies. Maybe James Cagney or whatever. I don't know.
As we wrap this up, what is your message to young people that are on the internet watching, hopefully, this podcast, and they're trying to do the research into historical events in history, such as what happened to your father? What's your message to the young people that are looking into it?
The internet and Hollywood is making jerks out of you if you listen to them because they're not telling you the truth. They're leading you down a path that you may not be prepared for. And all these informants and all that trying to make themselves larger than life. They're trying to rewrite history because they ruined their lives. They ruined their families' lives. They have no honor. They have no code. They have nothing. Women, children, elderly, handicapped, challenge, a real man looks out for. Respect your family. Respect your government. Respect the cop on the beat. Be a gentleman. That's the message that's out there. I'm not saying not be tough. Every man should be tough. And remember, right makes might, not might makes right. And secondly, all this nonsense you saw in the offer is just ridiculous. The Godfather of Harlem is an atrocity. It causes racial disharmony. Live in a world you can't say Mr. Potato Head. There's 52 genders, but you could go around screaming the N-word. And misrepresenting law enforcement, misrepresenting everything. You know, I would just like to say this, and I'm going to say it once. Do and break down. If you watch my podcast, you know I don't monetize. It's not for money.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to see us take advantage of. And if there's something I'd like to leave behind, it's my way I look at things and how to evaluate them, because you take them to their simplest things, how they affect you, how they affect others, and what is right and what is wrong, not based on what people are leading you to. I mean, in life, there's sheep, there's shepherds, and there's wolves. The shepherd does his job. He protects the sheep and keeps the wolves away. The sheep don't listen to the shepherd. The wolves are going to eat them up. And these informants are sheep in wolves' clothing. But however, if they can buffalo you, they can lie to you and trap you, they will. My advice is to not get involved. If you're not prepared to go to the electric chair or spend the rest of your life in jail, pick something else. That's my best advice to you. And live a happy life. Be educated, be smart. And at whatever level, make yourself a better person. I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. I don't want to be the most powerful person in the room. But I want to be the most effective person in the room for the greater good. That's what you should consider. And as you get older, I did dumb things when I'm young, and I can see how dumb they are as I get older. I'm not running around trying to justify them. I don't know. Did I answer all your questions satisfactory?
I think you did. I think this is a great informative episode that people need to listen to, because I think it's not entirely common knowledge that a lot of these shows omit a lot of facts. They change
They have an agenda.
They have an agenda.
They have an agenda.
I think some people are hip to the fact that Hollywood, changes things. They take liberties for dramatic effect.
It's not just Italians.
Yeah.
People have been moving Hoodlum, the story of Bumpy Johnson.
Yeah.
They made Dewey. The family went crazy. He was the most straight-laced guy you ever made. He was a special prosecutor. They said they bribed him. That never happened.
Yeah.
How do you think his family felt to watch that?
Yeah, that was a Fishburne played Bumpy in there.
He did a nice job. He did.
Yeah.
Good chess player.
Yeah, that's the thing. All these roles.
Do you believe he was standing in the middle of the street with machine guns, though?
No. All these roles, they were really well acted, but it's the dramatic effect. That's what they call it. This was changed for
Who's that?
Dramatic effect. Hollywood and writers. They say we change this for dramatic effect.
They're very miserable people with a lot of prejudices, and they want to prove their point with fiction.
Yeah,
that's dangerous.
Well, I hope we threw out some fact today. I know we threw out some fact, because I knew you were the guy to give
conjunction.
Yeah. I knew you were the guy that could give the truths that a lot of these shows won't give you, podcasts won't give you, documentaries won't give you. And I appreciate you coming on and laying it out today.
If you ask me, I'll tell you. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't tell the whole story, because I know that the Selvin Rabs, that girl, Claire White, and Carl Gambino felt this way. And in this period of time, how would you know? I was there. And you got that other guy on acid there saying, and in 1 minute they're saying he was a businessman, he wanted to do it the American way. And then they're saying they extorted the people. I mean, come on. There's so much contradiction. It's ridiculous.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, my friend. I've had a fantastic time. I thought everybody likes this episode. Head on over, check out Taking Action with Chris Colombo. You're fixing to start back up. Football season's right around the corner.
Football season's right around the corner. I'm going out to do Sean Kelly's podcast on the 31st of this month.
Nice.
I'm up on Apple. I successfully did 83%, which made me the best handicapper in the country. Anthony has, since he started with some of the procedures and added to what he does, I encourage him. He's one of the smartest young men I've ever had the pleasure to meet in a lot of areas. He's a very fine young man. I like him a lot. As a matter of fact, I love him. I think he's not too far behind me.
Mm-hmm.
And, It comes a day that I won't be able to do it. He'll be helping the youths out of the gamble. He enjoys it. He knows what he's doing. He's very talented in entertainment. And let's see where it goes.
Ladies and gentlemen, definitely go subscribe to Taking Action with Chris Colombo, especially if you're into sports betting. You're not going to get any better information anywhere else on the internet. Trust me, I know I looked for a long time. This is where I'm staying. And, of course, check out Crime and Entertainment every week. We appreciate you guys checking out this episode. We'll see you next time.
Take care. Thank you. God bless.